What is going on, guys? I got a pretty interesting topic of discussion to talk about today. This is actually an idea that I've had for quite a bit now that I just never got around to making a video, and I've kind of gate kept my ideas on this to even my friends as well, so this might be the first time they're hearing it if they're watching. But I wanted to talk about the future of Action Zone. So Action Zone is the area of the park where Paramount invested a lot of their attractions into. So prior to a few years ago, this area included Behemoth, Backlot Stunt Coaster, Sledgehammer, Cyclone, Swing of the Century, Antique Carousel, Time Warp, which has now been removed, Flight Deck, Extreme Skyflyer, Windseeker, and Slingshot. So quite a big portfolio of rides for one area, and it's kind of hard to blend all these rides into one area because they're all themed to various different things. And as I mentioned before, a lot of these rides are Paramount additions to Canada's Wonderland, and they are all thrill rides. So that's one thing that they all had in common, which is why they kind of lumped it all together and themed it to Action Zone. As of recent, Canada's Wonderland has been going back to their roots and trying to retheme half of this area into Grand World Expo. So you have the Grand World Expo Eatery, you have Flight Deck, Antique Carousel, Swing of the Century, and Time Warp, which was there but now it's been removed. So you have 3 rides in this area. So this area has a lot of potential, but I really wanted to talk about the other half of this area today, and that is the Action Zone half. And there's potential here for a decent themed area. First of all, I think adding some more trees back in this area would be great because this is actually an area of the park that doesn't have a lot of trees. It actually, I think a restaurant would work really well back here as well, or even like a drink stand. There's not really any of those back here either. The nearest washroom is at Coasters or right beside Coasters. And that's even another thing. I'm not even just talking about the attractions. The buildings in this area are also kind of ugly as well. Like, you have the washroom next to Coasters, you have Coasters, you have that Subway building, you have the t-shirt painting stand. They do have a nice bar that they opened recently right across from that t-shirt stand and Subway, but it has the kind of pastel paint similar to what Grand World Eatery has. Therefore, I think this building will be part of Grand World Expo. In terms of theming the rides, I honestly am thinking that some kind of industrial theme would work really well here. Not quite steampunk, but more like industrial construction site. And I know a lot of you guys might think it's like a tacky theme, but I think if Wonderland executed it properly, I think they could do a really good job here. And they already are kind of off to a good start because a lot of these rides are kind of industrial themed, like you see with Backlot Stunt Coaster and all the shipping crates. We saw Backlot down at Kings Island get renamed to Queen City Stunt Coaster to kind of fit in more with Cincinnati type theme to the nearby city Cincinnati. I honestly thought that this would be a pretty cool idea, an opportunity for Wonderland to theme Backlot Stunt Coaster to something more Toronto themed, since Toronto is nearby. But they already have a lot of theming there. There's something that they can enhance because Kings Island enhanced the theming of their Queen City Stunt Coaster. Sledgehammer and Cyclone are already kind of industrial themed. I think you could even add a little more theming to their queues and maybe give them better signs, place some props down in the line. I think you can honestly, there's so much potential here, and I'm really hoping that this is an area that stays separate from Grand World Expo, because a ride like, let's say, Behemoth just doesn't fit in this area, which this is definitely a harder attraction to retheme. Because it's just such a huge ride, and like it would have to give it a whole rename, which I highly doubt they would do. I just don't think they would. It's just too iconic of a name. They're gonna repaint it down the road, so maybe they can paint it to fit in with this new industrial area. But in terms of theming for Behemoth, you could even place some props down the line as well. There's just so much grass space to work with, and you can almost like theme it to like the Behemoth, like the beast itself, like tearing apart a crane or something like that. There's just so much potential. And honestly, another thing that they really need to do is add more shading into this area, because the queue lines for Sledgehammer and Cyclone do not have any shade. There are some trees over by Cyclone that do provide a little bit of shade in the summer, but there's no shading in the queue. I think you could potentially do some really cool theming elements inside of like a building or something, like give them like pre-shows. I mean, that's kind of going all out for some flat rides, but who knows? I mean, we've seen crazier. I mean, for the 25th anniversary, Cedar Point has been bringing back a lot of the effects from Millennium Force. And if the goal here is to beautify the park even more, I think that this is a great option. You already have a lot to work with here. I mean, there's space for more rides to work with down the road. Like even over by Slingshot there, you have some room. I just want to talk about Slingshot for a second because, yes, this ride is in Action Zone still. But the problem with Slingshot is that I think that ride has a contract and it's not technically owned by Wonderland. Wonderland rents it out, like same like they did with Extreme Skyflyer. And the one at Kings Island, the Slingshot at Kings Island, actually got removed recently, and they added cargo locos there to replace it as part of a new themed area at Kings Island Adventureport. So again, this is something. These are potential options down the road that I could see Canada's Wonderland doing. It might be a little more closer to Grand World Expo, so they might add that into Grand World Expo if they put something there. Windseeker is another one that I also think could be Grand World Expo more, because it just seemed more on that side, in that area of the park. Again, you also have Kingswood on the other side of Action Zone and Grand World Expo. But I think Kingswood will be pretty much half and half. So I think half of it will be used for Grand World Expo, and I think half of it will be used for this new Action Zone area of the park. And I think this area is going to be getting the attention sooner rather than later, because as soon as they're get something into Grand World Expo, because Time Warp is a big void in that area, that plot is begging for something. It is very, very quiet in that area now of the park, so they're going to want to draw more people over there. But once they do that, I do think that Action Zone will be getting more additions, because in reality this is Paramount's section of the park that hasn't had any updating really since Behemoth, because I think Behemoth was the last major attraction they added in this area, and that was 2008, guys. So it's about time they do a little bit more to this area, go back and add more into it. I mean, I think with the expansions that's the area of Grand World Expo are going to be getting down the road, I think it's about time that this area also gets some expansion, but it's a work in progress. So you started off with Frontier Canada, now they moved on to Alpenfest, and they're going to move on to Grand World Expo, in my opinion, and then I think this will come after. But the park is getting a lot of money, so hopefully this is something that will happen down the road. I think this is definitely a potential option, and I think it'd be great to see. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments of my potential idea for retheming Action Zone to some industrial type themed area. Give me a name in the comments of what you'd like this area to be named. Give me some potential rethemes, maybe of Cyclone and Sledgehammer, which, however, I do think those rides already would fit into this area. Give me some potential other themes that you think would work for this area, as long as you're keeping Behemoth the way it is. Don't change that. But yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for my Grand World Expo video that I will be making as well, because that area has a lot to work with and a very bright future, especially with Kingswood and Time Warp's plot of land. There's just so much to work with there, more so than Action Zone. So take it easy, guys, and I'll see you guys later.